Today's episode of Pool Magazine Podcast is sponsored by PoolMarketing.com, the leading digital agency in the pool and spa industry. When it comes to marketing, having the wrong partner can sink your sales quick. Choosing the right one, on the other hand, can help elevate your business to unimagined heights and propel your sales into uncharted waters. Pool Marketing specializes in providing best-in-class digital marketing services for all spectrums of the pool industry, including pool builders, service pros, manufacturers, and suppliers, and has become the trusted marketing partner for hundreds of pool pros across the nation. Looking to take your marketing to the next level? Visit us today and schedule your free marketing consultation at poolmarketing.com.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Pool Magazine Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Joe Trusty, and today I'm chatting with Phil and Denise de Tournillon of Riverflow Pumps, the industry leader in lazy rivers, swim-in-place systems, and adventure pool systems. Also, we have special guests with us, Brian Van Bauer, one of the co-founders of Genesis, and industry veteran designer and builder Marco Perrella back with us on the show today as well. And we're going to spend some time today discussing hydrotherapy as it pertains to wellness and backyard pools. It's a pleasure to be able to connect with all of you today.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Thank you.
To get us going, I thought a good place to start today's conversation would be just with the word hydrotherapy itself in general. I mean, I feel like that word gets tossed around an awful lot these days, and it's almost become like a kind of ubiquitous buzzword right up there with like sustainability. I mean, that word has a lot of different connotations. Most homeowners and even some builders, I think that word still feels a bit abstract. So let's start simple. What does hydrotherapy actually mean to this group, to you guys in your real world context of swimming pools?
Early career, Joe, I started before I built pools. I did spas, hydrotherapy spas, way back. As a matter of fact, we did some of the first portable spas. They weren't doing prepackaged portable spas back at that time, and we built a spa on top of a wood platform with wheels on it because, as a typical pool guy, I decided if it's going to be portable, we need to roll it. And we did that, and we did home shows back in the day when people would walk by and look at it and call it a sauna and had no clue what they were talking about. And then from there, we started doing in-ground stuff, and I started to see the effect that people realized from sitting in hot water. Stress reduction is a tremendous part of it, and we can all use that in today's world. But then having the benefit of focused hydrotherapy, water and moving of any kind, and the jets pounding on locations that might be painful. I'm a firm believer in hydrotherapy to the point that about 25 years ago, I had a company that it was called Hydrotonics, and we were designing and building hydrotherapy rehab facilities with doctors. It was quite entertaining, and the doctors were part of a thing called the Miami Project to Cure Paralysis. They actually believe that they're working toward that, and they believe hydrotherapy is a big part of it. I think there's a lot that we can get from seeing this water moving and the effect that it has on the body. I think it's outstanding.
How about you, Marco? I mean, where does your brain go to when you hear the word hydrotherapy?
You know, I'm going to back up. I think my first experience probably with the moving water in the swimming pool is probably about 10 years ago. And it was for a family who had a daughter who was a, junior Olympic training. And so that they inquired, is there something we can do? And at that point, I was aware of a couple products, but happened to be the show. It was showtime. And within a week, I was down at the show and saw Phil and Peter and looked at all the different systems and came back with an explanation and my recommendation for what they should use. And once we got that in and saw the joy as their daughter jumped in the pool, for the first session against that, it became something like, oh my gosh, just besides swimming against the movement of the water, and we saw her, kind of finish and the kind of spinning around, it opened another whole eye for us in that the movement is more than just against a current. It could be used for anything. Moving water has an incredible effect upon people. Now, every project that we walk into, we really start getting a feel for, are they going to use the pool? How are they going to use the pool? And then we start opening to their eyes to the possibilities. I would say, we've done at least a half dozen pools with systems in them. And I don't think they get used as much for swimming laps as they do for just the movement of the water and floating around. And the kids absolutely love it. It's therapy for them. Everybody wants to come to their house. That's what we've seen,
Some good insights there, Marco. Thanks for sharing. Denise, I know that, this is kind of a subject that's kind of right in your wheelhouse. I mean, you're Ivy League educated on this subject, therapy in general. I mean, I would love to get your input, as specifically because you actually put this into practice in your guys' own pool. Isn't that right?
Yes, that's how I got involved with Peter, and we got involved overall is looking for a way for me to get good workouts on my knees and having a bad knee and being a distance runner, but also so I could just do the refreshing work that I need to do myself to keep my mind, body, and spirit going to do the work I do. So I'm a psychotherapist, I'm a prescribing nurse practitioner. I work with mental health environments. And for me, the hydrotherapy is the entryway for passive fascination. It's walking into the water and you don't have to do anything to be totally fascinated by it, and it encourages you to continue the workout. Workouts are different. We don't need in mental health work and water therapy, we're not concentrated on the strengthening of muscles to an extreme extent, except to create tone and movement in water. It's all about tone, regeneration. We think of mitochondrial generation. That's everybody talks about making your telomeres longer and living longer and feeling better longer. And for me, it's about removing obstacles to getting in and getting started.
Phil, anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to attend a mastermind conference last year and listen to Ricardo make a presentation on Full Horizons and the study that they're doing and trying to never that it's never been really gone, but bring it back into the front of the benefits of what wellness and health benefits there are by being in the swimming pool. The classic is we have these structures that are just, well, they're works of art, and then they're just beautiful, and you can sit in your backyards and you can entertain and you can look at these bodies of waters and the elements that they provide. And then there's that added component that if it moved, and we're not talking about big pressure and strong currents, we're talking about the feeling of what it's like to feel a gentle soothing current that wraps around everybody that's in that swimming pool experience. And so Denise and I have been talking about this energy that's coming from the industry and direction it's going. And so we came up with this. I'm going to pass this back to Denise and say, we came up with this idea called the BlueOrbit. Denise?
Really, we're excited about it. We've accidentally made blue orbits all the time inside pools. We're known for lazy rivers or swim in place. This creates a circular current within a body of water. And I've seen it in my pool. I've seen it in other people's pools, and that's the fascination and joy that people get from swimming in the pool. So our contribution to the wellness environment, which we're really hoping to introduce to outstanding designers like Brian and Marco, is the idea of a blue orbit, water that moves in a circle, that we can have light that goes with that circle going around the water, and we can create the experience of joy.
And if I could, Joe, Phil, your comment about the Pool Horizons, they've actually been guests on the podcast with me. And I think our industry sometimes forgets what the real goal of our product is and what it can do. And one of the things that changed my path in the industry years ago, I don't even want to tell you how many years ago, but I joined the Chamber of Commerce, and I did that mostly because the young lady selling the membership was pretty. And I would have bought whatever she was selling, but I went to the first meeting and there was maybe 120 people there. And I was a true pool guy. I had white polka dots on my shorts, and I didn't wear them to that meeting, fortunately. They were all like people in three-piece suits. But she told me when I got there, oh, by the way, Brian, we're going to have you come up and tell everyone what you do. And I started thinking, what am I going to say? And then fortunately for me, the guy that went before me that was joining he was in the rug cleaning business. So he bored him to tears. We use a rug cleaner and we clean the rug. So on the way up there, like stuff started coming into my head and I just winged it. Of course, that's the way I've lived my life pretty much. And I get in front of the audience and they said, Brian, what do you do? I said, well, I increase your lifespan. I allow places for families to reunite. I create places for your children to have their friends over. I enhance your health and your ability to enjoy life, and I create something visual that will draw you out that you didn't used to go out there. And I just went on and on. It started to sound like a religious ceremony, but I got a standing ovation and 4 leads when
Awesome.
before I left there, and I thought, hey, this is cool. And so in my program in Atlantic City, I told the group because did a program on job costing, and I said, if you start with a client and say, listen, when they start to think about the money, and I go, well, if I could extend your life and make you healthier and happier, how much would that be worth? So I think you're spot on, and I think the Pool Horizon effort is a great thing for our industry. It hopefully it'll help take some people that maybe have gotten off track just a little bit and come back and go, whoa, yeah, that's what we have. We got that. So it's not about the thickness of your concrete or how well your fiberglass mold is or any of that stuff. It's about the water and what it can do for you, and I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah, the benefits are incredible when you get hydrotherapy integrated into the pool. And that's really what I wanted to ask you two guys, because I mean, you guys more so the boots on the ground in this respect. I mean, what are you seeing your customers actually using hydrotherapy for when they specify for that kind of stuff?
Obviously there's a trend out there in the world. Let's be healthier more and more. And so before there was never as much emphasis at our end, hearing back on the spa and the importance of the spa and what they want. Now more than ever, we get deep with the people and they're like, yes, I'm going to use that twice or every other night, and so let's do this. And how are you going to use it? And why are you using it? As far as the jet locations, etc. Now, and of course the chillers, everybody's into the chillers, and it's been put out there, inflammation, etc. And so we're seeing that jump in on probably half the projects, there's a request. And so those people also they'll look at the pools. I'm in Northern California where, everything has a cover and is a rectangle, but they're looking like, okay, how long can I make this to swim laps on or to do other things in the pool than just traditionally what it was? So people's minds are more open, and we kind of fuel that by putting out the options to them and start explaining how we can custom tailor for their lifestyle and for their health. And it's exciting because they get into it, when they have that, oh, can you do this? Can you make it where I can stand there and have jets on my calves, my whole body? And oh yeah, we can do that. Oh, that would be great. I don't have to go down to the Y or whatever. So it's exciting because before it was more beautiful about pretty things, and now it's like, oh no, I really want to get in my spa and my pool regularly. It's more than the pretty pictures now.
More functional spaces for sure. I mean, Brian, you want to double down on that? I mean, what are you seeing?
I see a lot of people realizing that when they get in any body of water and they have that flotation, that it increases their mobility. And so people that are trying to get better, repair something that's falling apart, and as you get older, everything seems to fall apart. And so they get in a body of water and maybe they can't do a lot of movement on dry land, but they get in the water and they're able to move freely because they have the flotation. But I think that one of the biggest benefits that goes to the clients today is they come to a realization that just looking at water changes the way you feel, whether you're in it or not. And I would say this, and I'd ask Marco this question: what percentage of all the projects that you do today incorporate some type of hydrotherapy effect or moving water effect? What is it, Marco?
Everyone.
Yeah,
Great
that's
to
it.
hear.
Yeah,
Everyone.
there you go.
Fabulous.
So I think that's a big thing, but the visual part, I don't want to overstate it, but another epiphany I had was back when Genesis was part of the foundation, and we were coming back from I'm going to call it a business meeting, but that sounds better than wine tasting. We were in Washington, and we were driving with Tom Lachaki and several of our other instructors and so forth. And we're driving along, and it was pretty countryside going from down in Washington out to back to Seattle. But everybody was enjoying the scenery. And then we turned the corner on the road, and there was just a large body of water. And all of a sudden, people all commented, and it made them change the way they were feeling. Just looking at the water, people actually said it out loud. They said, "Wow, look at that." And they looked at mountains and trees and all kind of things on the way. But when this happened, just looking at water changed the way they feel. That's huge for me. And today in the vessels that we're doing, there's a lot of overflow vessels of all kinds, vanishing edge, perimeter overflow, elevated perimeter overflow. And when people are in those vessels, they have the reverse benefit, both directions. From in the vessel, you're above water level, and the water level is the same as your deck or the surround. So now you're more integrated into the environment. And so if other people are there, you can communicate better and all while you're in the water. But the other side is that you can look across the water, and now we're getting this reflection on the surface, and it makes you feel good.
Yeah, those are great points, Brian. I mean, when I think about hydrotherapy, I think about joint pain, inflammation, athletes trying to recover, staying ambulatory, being able to continue that movement in your later years. But the mental wellness aspect of it is just as crucial in that regard. Maybe you could speak to that, Denise, because I mean, you guys kind of eat your own dog food in this regard. And that's kind of what really springboarded the whole BlueOrbit movement to begin with. I mean, what can you talk to us about, what surprises homeowners once they start using hydrotherapy regularly as part of their regimen?
I think the mental release is what people talk about. It's that joyful feeling. You don't have to work so hard to feel wonderful inside a pool. But you think about it, when you're maxed out, you don't know how to think about things. You feel like you're going nuts. You're really having a hard time dealing with your kids or your husband and wife or whatever, mother-in-law. We get confused. We think about work stress. What do we want to do? We want to go on vacation. Where do we want to go? To the water. We want to be around the water and in the water. And and the water takes the center stage of the whole environment. And that's what causes us to relax. So walking in the water, feeling that current on our toes, feeling alive and with something and changing us automatically. So being in that mental space and then stopping and doing the physical exercise of working out, for instance, balance. That's a critical skill to have as we get older. That's the number one reason we die over the age of 65 is from falls. The number one prevention for falls, balance. Best place to balance in the pool where you fall over, you're not going to hurt yourself. But also you add that current and that movement, you're going to create strength in your muscles. So you have the joy, the mental joy of doing it. So how many of us need to go to the gym? It's like, I don't want to go. It's so much work. You just stand in the water. You're mentally more invigorated. You start your warm up, which is a mental thing, and you get involved in the physical work. And somebody I've had my medical challenges and I had to come back from things. And I know that my exercises are so important. My core exercises are so important to me. And just to be able to do my job, I think wellness is huge and it's more than just our physical side. So for me, my definition of health and mental health is the ability to breathe in all that life has to offer us, good and bad, to blow off what is bad or we don't need and keep the rest and keep doing the work of life. That is a definition of how mentally healthy you are. And that can be done in the water so much better. And we can be a part of that and giving that gift to our clients and offering it to them. And personally, I just love current. I think walking in the current is fabulous. Just sitting in the current is wonderful. And with the BlueOrbit, you can maintain a swim in place environment. You can do walking therapy. You can just be sober curious in your new BlueOrbit. So I'm all about health and wellness and about setting the stage of accepting responsibility for the work we have to do to get ourselves better, but lowering the pain.
Good answers. I mean, for a long time, recovery simply meant go sit in the spa. I mean, why is that model starting to feel limited, do you guys think?
Well, I have a couple of thoughts on that. And let me just say that in my home, I live on the water, and sometimes that could be painful because we had 3 feet of water in my garage and took away a couple of my cars and my golf cart and some of my tools. So, and we had the discussion afterward, my wife and I, about, she said, well, do you think we should move somewhere else? And I go, no, because I love looking at that water. So let me find a way to keep it, minimize the next potential damage. But I get in my pool almost every day. And sometimes I just put a noodle between my legs and sit there and relax. But other times I get in and I have a set of those foam exercise devices that I have one you can put on my ankles and one and hold these things in your hand that gives you resistance and you can do movement in the water. Sometimes the ones on my feet cause me to turn upside down, but I don't mind. And I think the sound of moving water is important. I think it creates the ability to focus. Even with the BlueOrbit, the water movement is not, it's not a rushing river. It's just moving, but you can hear that sound. And so it allows, I hate the term white noise because it sounds negative, but it does create some sound that allows you to focus on that rather than all the negative things that life can throw at you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna back up. Brian, you're on the water, and I know Joe knows where I've moved, not far from him. But I look out of my office right now, and there's a lagoon. It's frozen over right now, but I wake up and I look at a lagoon, and in the summertime, the boats are rolling by, heading to the lake. There's not a day that goes by that we don't take a walk and we walk down to the edge of the lake. And when you look out on that lake, it can be calm as forever, and you forget about everything. You're just looking out there, absorbing it, and hoping that it warms up this summer, and you can surf. When it's rough, you still look out there, forget about everything, and think, I just can't wait. If it's rough like that, that we'll windsurf, or jet ski. There's just I'm drawn to it, and now I get to live it. It used to be a weekend thing, and I finally had the opportunity to, like, okay, I can be around water all the time. But at the same time, as my age is increasing, I'm thinking about what Denise is talking about and Phil's talking about, and I just finished designing a pool, a dedicated pool for a house we're going to be building for ourselves in Arizona. And literally, it's a 10 by 20 with the Riverflow system in it. But I'm a swimmer, and my thought is I'll probably be in that every single day doing some sort of resistance work, etc. But my wife, she doesn't like to swim, so we've designed it in such a way that it's ramped, that she will work in place against it for therapy. And literally, we've seen so much good on our own projects from this movement of water. It's like, okay, I got to have that myself, and I want to do this. And I literally dedicating a pool, a space for health reasons, exactly, and longevity. And, hopefully I never need to rehab, but sometimes you take a bad crash on the mountain bike and, you have to take a step back. And so that pool is going to be something that every day, every night, whenever I feel like going out for X amount of time, I can get in there. There's the motion, there's the therapy, and then the scene around me is all reflective, the in Sedona. So it's kind of the best of all right there. But just being by water itself, visually, the mental part of it, you look out there and everything just leaves you for a moment, as long as you can get it to leave. So,
Well, let me ask you guys a question and to go a little bit further. I mean, when hydrotherapy or moving water becomes part of the brief, but becomes part of what your customers are specifying for from day one, and it's not an afterthought, how does that kind of change the way that you approach your pool design?
I like to make it so that they're able to have both the visual and the functional at the same time. So, there was a time where the hydrotherapy part, getting in the water and using the vessel for what it was intended, was a small part. Now it's a big part. As Marco said earlier, people are talking about that up front. So, and just to back up a hair, that, there was a time in our industry where pools were kind of a high-end product that not everyone could afford. And then as time went on, it became more affordable or more in demand, depending on your outlook. But as they started to become more common, people just got a pool because it was a thing that they thought they needed to get when they reached a certain level of success. But now it's a thing that they need to make themselves feel better, and they understand that, and they ask for it up front. And as Marco said, we do cold plunges on projects all the time, on residential projects, in addition to the pool. And when we put them in the spa, like if we're doing a spa next to a pool with hydrotherapy jets, we want to make it so that they're looking at the pool and seeing a good view at the same time. I think that the market for moving water is increasing tremendously. And I think the idea of the BlueOrbit, just the fact that water is moving around and you get a circular motion and someone can sit in there or stand in there and the water is going by. And as Denise said, they can swim against the flow. They make paddles that you hold in your hand so that you can increase the force on yourself. So you can, there, Denise has one there, but you can't, unfortunately, you can't see those things on the radio. But the thing is that people can walk against that flow. And I had a customer that you were talking about sports rehab. And so what they were doing was they were holding paddles in their hand and walking backwards against a flow of water. And it affected the area that they were having a problem with in their legs that they had injured. And they said it fixed them in a short period of time, where normally the recovery would have been months. After doing this just for a short time, they felt they were recovered. So, the thing is for me, the being in the water business in general is what keeps me going, and I love it. And every time I'm with clients, they sense that I also love it. So then they start to open up, and not only they open up their thought process, but sometimes they also open up their wallets and go a little crazy. And I'm okay with that. But I can't say enough good things about moving water. And there's times, of course, you want still water. Obviously, with these overflow vessels and all that, you're talking about looking at the view and reflection, but moving water has a great effect.
Well, with a variable speed, and Phil can talk about that, you can have it all in terms of with the Riverflow system, you can turn it off and then turn it back on, which is obviously a huge boon. And I just feel like these chillers you guys are talking about are so exciting. We do this, we've been doing work in psychiatry and therapy, working with patients with chillers for a long time for PTSD. But if you wanted to hold on to your practice, you didn't ask your delicate, depressed patient to jump in a cold body of water. And so for me, I'm just instantly, and I've been curious about this, like, how do I build a chiller in the middle of the BlueOrbit? Like, how do I get it all? And how do I get, because it's really about that invigorating feeling and being able to move up that flow and push it back down. And Phil, maybe you want to talk about that variable speed and what that gives to a consumer.
Yeah, I think I'd like to talk about that, and I also want to add something. You know, Brian and Marco and Joe and everybody here, this conversation is what we need to do and stimulate throughout the industry. And aren't we happen to be manufacturers of a product that can deliver such a volume of water movement? And it's not just what we make, but there are other applications that can add to everybody's experience. And it's really spirited for us this year in 2026 to have the conversation with the designers and say to them, you need to suggest this to your client. There is like Brian says, and it adds to your living and your life. It adds to your happiness and your joy. And I just have to say that it's really, truly an amazing experience that I think if we as an industry leaders start to talk more about it, the gains will be there for our clients and further develop what it is that the studies are showing. Immersion, being in water, is a huge success for everybody.
And Phil, can I ask, one of the things that Joe was heading for earlier that we kind of bypassed is from a pool builder's perspective, there is some education necessary to understand the kind of hydraulics that are required for some of these applications. So, there's a lot of pool people that have never worked with 10-inch PVC and so I know from working with you that, you provide all the help that's necessary, but I think that's part of it. And having different modalities of function within a vessel. We did a project a few years back in Mexico, a high-end hydrotherapy pool, and it had stations. You could go from one to the other, and some of them were water coming at you. Some of them were gooseneck devices that shot water on you. You could vary the pressure. There was actually a control, so you could turn that pressure up. And those require certain, techniques of application as far as the hydraulics and then the temperature control. Today, most of our pools, particularly in southern climates and in the Caribbean, have both chiller and a heat pump. In addition to maybe something that would go faster to make the spa get to 103 degrees in a short period of time. But the temperature is important. My daughter is living with us right at the moment while she's waiting for her house to close. And she and I get in the pool and last week and coming up again tomorrow. For Florida, it's been really cool. They're talking about possible snow here. I don't need that after coming back from Atlantic City, but I think that I learned a little lesson because she was here. We haven't been able to see her that often. I started heating the pool even when I normally wouldn't because it was so cold outside that it didn't seem feasible, but I did it anyway. And I used my gas heater and the heat pump. And then the bill came, and that was 900 that I hadn't expected at that moment, but it was worth every penny because we were in it every day and in the pool, in the spa, back and forth. And I think that she would tell you that $900 was well spent.
Well, on the hydraulic side and the education piece, Brian, as you mentioned, and for Marco and for everybody, that's something that we as a company also provide as a service to these design functions, that we actually participate in making sure that the hydraulics are in fact done correctly. We typically on projects will give people actually full plumbing call outs and designs and drawings to make sure everything is done the way it's supposed to be done, which is excellent because it does tie into the educational side of understanding how to approach something that has 10-inch pipe or 12-inch pipe and deliver something that produces over 2,000 gallons a minute, knowing it's fully adjustable. So yeah, no, it's great to know that they have a resource when the consideration, like Marco says, well, I need to come up with a design for this project. You can share it with this company, and they're going to go ahead and participate in making sure that the design is done right.
Yeah, I would say that's been the greatest part working with y'all is, early on when we think we're heading there, that we're going to get someone going for it, we instantly start the communication process to work as much on the shape of the pool, if you would, where stairs are located, at the far end and what's going to happen with the current. So we've had some where the people definitely wanted the swim step, but that's going to affect the current. And so we've had some that have created eddies. And so, they were their own little BlueOrbit, those little eddies going on. They weren't a perfect 360, but we had things going on, and you could see the people going, "Oh, this is pretty cool, heading the wrong way," and so, but that to me is a crucial part, is the early on and your software that, I've seen you work with the speeds that go through, and okay, if you move that stair over there, or maybe we had one not long ago that we basically just made the stairs across the whole end of the pool so that it would be consistent. Whenever it hit there, everything came back. And that was just early in the design process. It worked for the customer, and it made your system and the flow even better. And so as much as the piping side of it, it's the interior side that plays such a crucial part. And, on the orbit, is the corners, is those are just basically steps to get out of the pool to somebody, but for the flow, that's crucial,
Yep.
to get that consistent circulation. So that, I think, is anybody kind of pointing clients in the direction should definitely get on board with you early on to not go 3 steps forward and then come back. We don't want you to say, no, that's going to not work after they've designed it and sold the Riverflow and sold the Baja shelf, etc. So that your software that basically graphically shows that has been really impressive to me, and to be able to show client, look, here's what it's going to do,
Agree.
Marco,
Fluid dynamics. Mhm.
you said that something that we shouldn't overlook. In the end, we're all still in business to make a profit and make money. And if you can add something onto a project that is not only going to make you some money, but is going to make your client happier than they would have been, that's a win-win. There's nothing wrong with talking about the fact that you need to make money. Without money, there's no life. At least not when I want to live. And the reality is, if you've got a client and you're adding on these features and so forth, then you come up and say, "Hey, how about let's do the BlueOrbit on here because I think that'll change the way you feel every day." And you add that on, and now you've added the cost on that they're willing to pay. I think it's a tremendous thing because they're going to love their vessel when it's done more than they would have otherwise.
Well said, Brian.
Well, that's why I love this industry. I mean, there's always something new and exciting around it, but it feels like we're watching pools kind of evolve the same way that gyms evolve, from a basic swimming pool to more of the full recovery system.
I look at the app, I'm going, holy smokes, it's only 40 degrees, but he's got that pool at 86. And there's people in and out of that every single day. And, it has the current systems on it. And I know the owner will be calling me, hey, I'm going to fire up the heat pump and do this for the weekend. We're having a bunch of people coming over. And I'm looking at the weather going, really? but they're coming over to get in that pool. And, it has the beautiful view of the whole bay and the Golden Gate and all that as well. So there's that part of it. And that place is a magnet. And so I have found that people now, when they have a pool that draws them in and can do more than just what they typically used to, they're using it. It's not seasonally now. They're going all year round, And out here we have a lot of solar panels, and so heat pumps are a big deal. And with them and generating power, we have to give them the pros and cons of electrical power, but they're going, yes, we want that because we want to use our pool longer. And they're using it because they want to get in it and enjoy it. They are subliminally understanding the mental aspect of it. There's a joy that getting in that water.
Yeah, definitely, Marco. I mean, we talked about hydrotherapy and moving water and turning the entire pool into a recovery zone. And that really kind of segues us into BlueOrbit as a conversation starter. Instead of isolating therapy in a spa, we're more or less creating a vortex that utilizes the whole pool. And the premise is really exciting as a category starter. Phil, I was hoping that you could elaborate on this system a bit more and how builders are using it to bring hydrotherapy home for their customers.
Well, I think it's important that, as we mentioned, is that we participate in the early on in the design phase, that we have a product that makes it easy for us to be able to deliver a result that's going to have an experience that the clients are going to be able to feel. And knowing that we have the capability to make it very soft. And I think the softness and the lack of aggression is a big part of what this experience these clients are going to feel. And so being able to dial down things to the speeds that you want, and yet have the sense of being able to capture a large part of the body of water, allows people to be able to experience this feeling that just soothes everybody and makes everybody smile. In one example, there was a client and they had a long bench along the side, and the kids would sit on the young teenagers would sit on the coping and have their feet sitting in the water, and the current was running over their toes and their legs. And the girls would say to their mom, it's tickling my toes. And it's just like, that's the kind of emotion that comes out that produces the joy, as Denise talks about, that presents the mental health and the joy and happiness. So
Wasn't
that's what
she
we're
the
at.
one? She was the one that was afraid of the current initially. She thought it was too powerful. Then she put one in. That she thought to
Yeah,
herself, I should have put in two. So
correct.
it's like because it's variable speed, and we do provide so much design support and the plumbing overlays, and electrical too. I think we can make it easy for people to bid a job like that, make money, like you say, but plus also listen to the client and produce the joy that they're looking for. Give options for therapy and for that therapeutic recovery, and just a place to de-stress and feel better. And that gives longevity to that pool.
The
It,
variable speed aspect is a big thing, because now you just being in the water and having the flow, you're covering everything from grandma to the Olympic swimmer. I mean, so every family has,
Yeah.
a wide range of needs, and that's a big thing. And I have seen older people that really can benefit a lot from water, but they need to cut it way down and get a low flow, and they're getting some great exercise and feeling better about themselves. And then, the young pups get in there and they want to see how fast they can make the water go. I think it's great that we're able to offer, both ends of the spectrum and everything in between, and it allows you to fine tune it for the most optimum performance and best benefit. The thing I found is that moving water improves air quality. Moving water acts as a natural humidifier and air purifier. And I hadn't
Wow.
thought about that, but just the fact that water is moving, and flowing water can clear the air of allergens and pollutants, and while adding moisture to the dry environment, particularly if you're building in Arizona, that you have this better quality of air. So
Wow.
another tool in your arsenal.
There
Awesome.
you go.
it's not just ozone, but the ozone works.
Yes, yes, it does.
100%. I mean, if we know that stationary therapy has its limits and more movement-based flow unlocks more of the body, is it fair to say that we're just at the very beginning of what recovery-focused pool design can become, guys?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt about it. I mean, I'm just thinking to myself as we're talking through this, it's almost, call it 3-in-1, whatever. You put a BlueOrbit in, and depends upon how you set up your floor profile, you have a rehab area or an area to stationary move against it. You can swim against it. And now you also can sit in your inner tubes with a cold drink and float in a circle too, and just chatting with each other. So it's you with design, and that the variable speed pump, there's unlimited, that was just three applications there that were good for the body and for the mind.
I like how you said that they were at the beginning of approaching recovery level pool design. And I think that's where I think Europe is way ahead of us, and they have a greater appreciation for wellness and fitness and just taking a look at internally how to stay alive longer. Those mitochondrial regeneration systems and the idea of extending your telomeres and just warding off dementia as we get older is huge. But we know patients who use it, or clients who are using it for their mother who has a mild dementia. She's walking in a swim channel. So there's a way to use a Riverflow so that you create a swim channel. It's kind of like a half BlueOrbit on one side, and then it goes around. But she's walking with the resistance and a really slow movement. But we need, oxygen perfusion, circulation, and mental peace in order to stop the brain death. So we're so excited, very excited about those applications.
That was a great case study there, Denise. I mean, specifically, how people are putting together these kind of wellness pools with different zones for hot and cold, resistance therapy, more gentle current. I mean, it really illustrates the fact that, you can create a custom solution that's specifically tailored, just like a tailored suit to your exact needs. Gang, thanks so much for lending your time and your expertise to this conversation today, and for everyone taking time out of their busy schedule to connect with our audience today. I really appreciate everyone's input as it made for a really balanced and more nuanced discussion.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's all the time that we have left for today. Make sure to like, share, follow, and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time on another episode of Pool Magazine Podcast.
Today's episode of Pool Magazine Podcast is sponsored by poolmarketing.com, the leading digital agency in the pool and spa industry. When it comes to marketing, having the wrong partner can sink your sales quick. Choosing the right one, on the other hand, can help elevate your business to unimagined heights and propel your sales into uncharted waters. Pool Marketing specializes in providing best-in-class digital marketing services for all spectrums of the pool industry, including pool builders, service pros, manufacturers, and suppliers, and has become the trusted marketing partner for hundreds of pool pros across the nation. Looking to take your marketing to the next level? Visit us today and schedule your free marketing consultation at poolmarketing.com.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So the thing I found is that moving water improves air quality. Moving water acts as a natural humidifier and air purifier. And I hadn't
Wow.
thought about that, but just the fact that water is moving and flowing water can clear the air of allergens and pollutants, and while adding moisture to the dry environment, particularly if you're building in Arizona, now you have this better quality of air. So
Wow.
that's another tool in your arsenal.
There
Also,
you go.
It's not just ozone, but the ozone works.
Yeah. Yes, it does.